something in my backyard whispered one word. Dig. The vines in my backyard won't stop growing. Part 1. Things were never easy for me, but they were never hard either. My whole life has been a long, quiet stretch of mediocrity. I was never the kid picked first, never the kid picked last. I was just there, a background character in my own story, 5'8", unremarkable face, unremarkable clothes, unremarkable presence. The kind of person whose name you forget while you're still shaking their hand. My grades reflected that too. Straight B's, never bad enough to concern anyone, never good enough to impress. When graduation came, I didn't celebrate. I didn't even feel relieved. I felt neutral, just moving into the next part of an average life. The job came next, credit analyst, mid-level, quiet cubicle, a place where people talked but never to me. I didn't hate it, but I didn't care for it either. It filled the time. What I didn't expect was a house to change everything. I had been searching for months, scrolling endlessly through listing after listing, each one either too expensive, too old, too small, or too broken. I wasn't picky, but even not picky doesn't stretch money that far. By the time I found the house, I had already convinced myself I'd be stuck in some one-bedroom apartment with peeling paint and neighbours who fought through the walls. But then, all at once, it appeared. The listing had 5 photos. 5 perfect, glowing, too good to be true photos. A long white porch with red trim, a narrow staircase with elegant dark green walls, tall windows with wooden frames, a backyard that looked like it stretched into the horizon, and behind it, a forest thick with vines twisting like ropes. I stared at the photos for almost an hour. Something about them wouldn't let me look away. The house felt like it was waiting. For who? I didn't know. But for the first time, I let myself hope it was waiting for me. The price was absurdly low. That should have been a warning. Instead, it felt like a sign. I bought the house site unseen. The drive over was surreal. I kept expecting the GPS to reveal some awful flaw, like the house was wedged between railroad tracks and a landfill. But the neighbourhood was quiet, peaceful, the kind of place with rocking chairs on porches and dogs that roam the yard freely. When I pulled into the driveway, I actually stopped the car and just stared. It was even more beautiful in person. The porch paint wasn't chipped, the trim wasn't faded. Even the air around it felt fresh, like the house exhaled after holding its breath too long. Inside, everything looked curated, preserved. Not a speck of dust, not a single scratch on the floorboards. The emerald walls were deep and rich, like something out of a vintage magazine spread. It felt wrong for a place that had supposedly been empty for years. I unpacked slowly, dragging boxes from the U-Haul while noticing how small my life looked in this new setting. My furniture seemed tiny, my decorations minimal. Every room swallowed my belongings whole, leaving empty spaces that made the house feel both inviting and intimidating. After everything was inside, I made sweet tea, my clumsy attempt at southern living, and stepped onto the back porch. The backyard was enormous. Larger than the photos hinted at. The grass swayed unevenly, thick in some areas, bare in others. Fireflies flickered lazily in the distance. A warm breeze came from the forest, carrying a scent of earth and time. And then I saw the vines. Kudzu. I didn't know the name then, but I knew it didn't belong. It covered everything, trees, stones, fallen logs, wrapping the forest like a hungry creature clinging to its prey. The vines layered so thick that not even a sliver of forest floor showed through. It felt alive somehow, not just growing, but reaching. I don't know how long I stood there before a voice broke my trance. "Evening, you must be the new neighbour." I turned around to see him, Creed, mid-50s, weathered face, warm grin. He walked with the confident ease of someone who'd lived here forever. Jasper, his dog, wagged his tail happily beside him. We introduced ourselves, and conversation flowed easier than I expected. Something about Creed felt grounding, like he'd seen enough strange things in life to take everything in stride. When I asked about the vines, he laughed. Kudzu, nasty thing. Government brought it over ages ago thinking it'd help with erosion. Ended up growing faster than they ever expected. Folks around here say you can hear it grow at night. He said it jokingly, but there was a flicker in his eyes. A hesitation, almost like he wasn't completely joking. He mentioned the previous owners too, how they packed up in less than a week, left in the dead of night, never explained a thing. That was another warning. I ignored that one too. The first few weeks passed smoothly. Work was predictable. People were distant but polite. They talked college football like it was religion. And when I didn't engage, their smiles froze slightly. Sarah, the one co-worker I found myself watching more than necessary, even joked that I'd never survive down here without choosing a team. I laughed, but inside I felt the familiar sting of being outside every circle and every group. I always blended in but never belonged. At night I tried to build routines, pasta dinners, quiet shows, a book here and there. Jasper's distant barking always drifted through the window. At first it annoyed me, but over time it became comforting noise. Something stable, something regular. Creed visited often, sometimes with sweet tea, sometimes with pie, sometimes with random items he claimed I needed to understand the South. He was lonely, I think, but for once someone was choosing to be around me. That was new. For a while, I felt something close to contentment. Not happiness, but something in that direction. Then, the dream. That night started like any other. Dinner, dishes, shower, bed. But at some point, the world shifted. I was standing at the back door, barefoot, silent, watching the yard, only it didn't look like my yard. It was darker, thicker, like the night was poured across it instead of falling naturally. The air was heavier, even the stars seemed dimmer. Then the kudzu moved. It didn't sway, it didn't rustle, it advanced. A ripple rolled across the forest floor, vines crawling over each other, slithering toward the house. A sound rose from them, soft, rhythmic, almost like breathing. Then the world froze. A figure stood at the edge of the vines, a pure silhouette, black against black, humanoid only because my mind needed it to be. Tall, impossibly tall, with edges that flickered like candle flame. It didn't speak with its mouth, if it even had one. It didn't walk toward me. It didn't gesture naturally, but something like an arm lifted and pointed at the center of my backyard. A scent filled the air, rich, damp soil, and something floral, sweet enough to make my chest ache. Then the whisper came, dig. Not through the air, but inside me, inside my skull, inside my thoughts. It wasn't a request. It was a command wrapped in comfort, perfect, warm, impossible to resist. Suddenly the world shifted, and I was outside, kneeling in the cold dirt. My hands were already clawing through the soil, tearing into it with frantic urgency I didn't understand. The dirt was wet, soft, warm against my skin. Every handful I removed sent a pulse of pleasure down my spine, like the earth was rewarding me, encouraging me, praising me. I dug deeper and deeper. The earth fell away effortlessly. My fingers throbbed, but it felt right, like I was fulfilling something ancient, something long awaited, and for a heartbeat, just one heartbeat, I felt fingers brushing mine beneath the soil. Then my alarm exploded. I shot up, gasping, sweating, heart hammering against my ribs. I stumbled to the window. The yard was untouched, grass perfectly still, no hole, no dirt overturned, nothing disturbed. But my hands burned, sore, raw beneath the skin, like they'd been hard at work for hours. It wasn't just a dream, it couldn't have been. Because when I finally looked away from my hands, I realized I could still smell it, that faint floral sweetness drifting through my room. like something had followed me back. Something beneath the earth was waiting, calling, whispering that single word again. Dig, follow for the next part.